I have two questions. One is from Marcus Peter Gosler and Stephen Amend. What do you consider the most foolish decision of your career, and was there an album you felt confident would be well received, but wasn't as successful as you hoped?
Oh yeah, yeah. I thought these two questions, whatever answer I have to them, they probably overlap with each other. The thing is what's hard to establish is what's foolish and what isn't. Because if you're an artist of any kind, you could say, I could say that I've made hundreds of foolish decisions in my career, but I could also say that I haven't made any. Depends how you look at it. I mean, it also gives me a chance to put in a shameless plug for the new album, which is called Fool. But I ran across a great quote recently from an actor who died recently, John Hurt, who said, if you're not willing to make a fool of yourself, you shouldn't be on the stage.
Wow.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that. You know, as artists, we're not doing things that are necessarily completely rational. So you could always say that something you're doing is foolish, and there's nothing wrong with that. So you could say that, again, the questions overlap, because albums that I've made that I thought should have been more successful, well, maybe what I did was foolish. You know, and if I hadn't been such a fool, it would have been more successful. I don't necessarily believe that. But I think that, I mean, I could say, I mean, I don't really have any regrets if I look back on either. I don't have any particular regrets. I think that during the 80s, especially, I must have been a workaholic or something, because I just did so much. And I don't think it was all that great, all of it, in retrospect. I could say, well, one thing, for instance, in about 1984, I took this big stand against videos and MTV. I said, I'm not going to make videos, it's stupid. And that didn't do me any good whatsoever. And it certainly didn't change the music industry or cause MTV to go bust or anything like that.
Yeah.
I could say that was a foolish decision. But I believed in it at the time. So what's foolish? I don't even know. The other question is, I would actually reverse it and say that there have been a couple of albums of mine which I didn't think stood a chance in hell of being successful in any way whatsoever, and yet they were. And one of them was Night and Day, which to this day is my most successful album. And when I made that, I was actually very nervous, because it was very different to my first couple of albums, which had been quite successful. And I remember thinking, nobody's gonna like this. This isn't gonna get played on the radio. You know, there's no guitars, has Latin percussion in it, it's kind of jazzy. I was really nervous about it.
Wow. But you always had a concept. I mean, it never struck me that in any of the records you didn't start with a concept of some kind.
No, that's not true.
Is that right?
No, it's the opposite. I never started with a concept. I always just started fooling around with ideas, trying to come up with something interesting, try and put it together and make one song, one at a time. And what happens is at some point I keep working, and some kind of overall concept, if you like, or theme, or some reasons why this particular group of songs fit together.
I see.
It gradually emerges, you know, it gradually makes itself clear somehow.
Wow.
But I don't start with a concept. The only time I ever did that was with the album Heaven and Hell, which was the 7 Deadly Sins was the theme of it. That's the only exception I can think of.
Okay.
But Night and Day was way more successful than I ever imagined it could be. The other one was my symphony, which was an instrumental piece that isn't really classical. I don't know what you'd call it. I thought that maybe about 10 people in the world would appreciate it, including my mother, you know. But in actual fact, I got really great players to play on it. And I'm proud of it. I think it turned out well. And it won a Grammy.
Amazing.
Now, I mean, that means probably by now 20 people have heard it. But nevertheless, I consider that to be a more successful project than I would have hoped. So it's all relative, and, you know, what's foolish and what isn't. You do what you do and you hope for the best.